One of the best things that you can do for yourself is to have a system. And Tim Oliver, what are you going to talk about today?
I'm going to show you how to paint more simple, intuitive, and repeatable.
Outstanding. Well, those are important, especially the repeatable. So we're going to get right to that in a second. Let's get this show started.
It's Art School Live with Eric Rhoads. Now, here's your host, Eric Rhoads.
Well, if you're watching this live, it's the day after Easter. Some call it Easter Monday, and I hope you had a terrific Easter. I did. You know, my kids were home from college. It was really terrific. We love being able to get together again. So I hope you had a great day. This is Art School Live, and it is here 5 days a week at 12 noon Eastern. We have an audience all over the world, about 90 different countries, people watching on different platforms, a lot of them on YouTube, Facebook, and so on. And we try to teach you little segments, things that will help you learn art. Our guest today is Tim Oliver. Tim is an incredible watercolor painter, and he's going to show you a system that you can replicate and make great watercolors every time. So you don't want to miss this today. Now, this system is applied to watercolor, but if you do any other medium, you want to watch it. Today's prize for putting a comment in the comment section, if we choose you, you will win a pair of value specs. Now, these things really will help you see values. Now, I have a pair on right now, and I'm able to look, I'm looking out the window, and I can see the darks and the lights and the various tones. Now, are they perfect? Nope, they're not perfect, but they're a great tool, especially for learning values. But when I paint with them, I put them on all the time. I keep them on top of my head, and then I bring them down. They really help me because I'm like, something doesn't appear right, and I'll put them on, and I'll go, that's what's wrong. I tell my values are off. Anyway, you can win a pair of value specs today by putting a comment in the comments section, whether you're watching on live or replay, and make sure to tell us where you're watching from. The winner of the apron that we gave away last time was Kathy Brooks, near Washington, D.C., whatever that means. We have a free gift for you today. It's 101 watercolor painting tips, tricks, and techniques, and you can have it for free. watercolorlive.com/101 tips. And if you want to subscribe to this program, all you got to do is go to YouTube, hit the subscribe button and the little notification button, and also follow me, if you would, on Instagram and Facebook. That would be very cool. It's Rhoads, Rhoads, with no E. Don't put an E in it. All right. Now, we have some big things coming up. Our guest today is going to be Tim Oliver. He's going to teach you 3 things that are going to make your paintings go easier. Just want to mention to you that things are heating up. The plein air convention, we're going to be heating up in Santa Fe. Last time we had the convention, it was almost a full month earlier. And so this will be warmer, hopefully less windy, and we're going to be painting the scenes around Santa Fe, New Mexico. Plein air convention, we no longer are required to have limitations on the number of people who attend. It's going to be a grand conference. We have 60 or 70, actually, I'm not sure which, 60 or 70 instructors, including people to work with you out in the field. It's going to be fun. One of our guests is Tim Oliver, and Tim is going to be here, going to be at the convention, but he's on with us right now. Tim, go ahead and take away your lesson.
Okay, Eric, thank you. What I'm going to be talking about is specific to watercolorists, for watercolorists, but we all know that, and Eric, you can probably confirm this, but every oil painter or acrylic painter out there secretly desires to be a watercolorist. So this will be.
Is that true?
Yeah. Well, I think so.
I will tell you this. Ever since Watercolor Live, I've been playing with watercolor a lot more. And it's already the lessons that I learned on watching that are already starting to really sink in. And I've had some really knock them out of the park watercolors. So I'm really anxious to hear this. And of course, a lot of us, whether we're oil, pastel, or otherwise, a lot of us do watercolor anyway, because especially on those moments when we have our sketchbook and some watercolors and nothing else.
Exactly. So I'm only joking about that. I secretly desire to be accomplished in oils, but I don't have time. So I've got so much to learn about watercolor. But to get real quick, and I know our time is limited, so I want to real quickly show you. I had one of those light bulb moments probably 15 years ago. I struggled with watercolor. I struggled and I fought it, and I would get in the middle of a painting and I would start to panic. It would be like the proverbial third monkey trying to get on Noah's Ark in the rain. I couldn't get a system in place. And so with the help of some really accomplished watercolorists that I studied with, I learned a process, and it was one of those light bulb moments. It's like, oh, I think I can do that. I think that's simple. Can you see that? I think it's simple. It's becoming intuitive, and it's repeatable, and I can do that every time. And so it was the beginning of a huge change in my work. So I call this the successive wash layering process. So we're gonna put after all the preliminary work is done for a painting, the composition, you've identified a scene or a subject matter, and you've worked through the process of coming up with a composition. You've worked on your values. We're getting to the point where we're going to apply paint, and so that's what I want to show is the way that I apply paint. And just for those watching, look at these three things. We're going to apply our paint top to bottom. Now, let me back up just real quickly. Extremely accomplished watercolorists don't necessarily paint this way. So for every system that anybody comes up with, or a process that anybody comes up with, there are exceptions. There are incredible watercolorists that do that different. This works for me. This is specific to me. I paint from top to bottom generally, which means I'm going to be at the top of the paper on a slope and painting from the top to the bottom. I'm going to go from light to dark, light pigment, light values to dark values, which is typical with watercolor as opposed to oils or acrylics. And then I'm going to paint thin to thick. So my paint is going to, as I continually build this painting up, my pigment, my paint is going to get thicker, and less watery. So anyway, that's that.
All right, that's very helpful. Do you always tape your watercolor paper down?
I do. I do. I'm just I'm a tape guy.
Yeah, I wondered, because one of the things I've realized is I'm getting a lot of curling, and it's because I'm not taping down. Now, the other thing is people are asking, or will ask, tell us what kind of paper you're working on and what kind of paint you're using.
I use Saunders Waterford rough paper, 140-pound rough, and I use Daniel Smith's paint pigments. 99.9% of my pigments are Daniel Smith. I just like their range and everything about them, and I try to keep it simple because things can get so complicated so fast. I like to have one manufacturer of paint. Anyway, that's what I use. So,
and what do you draw in with? Is that a graphite pencil? What is it?
Yeah, I just use a HB, kind of a soft leaded 0.7 pencil most of the time. Now I've drawn this a little darker than I would normally do it, just because I wanted people to be able to see it better for the demo. Yeah. But I don't worry about pencil lines. People get worried about pencil lines. I don't worry about pencil. By the time I'm finished painting, 90% of these pencil lines, even these dark ones, will kind of disappear. And if I want to, I can pull out a little kneaded eraser and erase a few if I need to. But I like people to be able to see my preliminary thought process. I know when I see a watercolor and I see some pencil lines in there, I'm trying to get in the artist's head. What was he thinking? I can see what he did there, and it's kind of exciting to see pencil lines left over. I'm not a purist, and I paint in a little bit of I call it a sloppy manner anyway. It's just the way I paint, but so I don't mind that so much. But let's get into it, because I know we don't have much time. Last fall, I took a trip. I'm a High Plains, West Texas guy, and I love the plains. And so I took a trip on Highway 83. Highway 83 goes all the way from Brownsville, Texas, way at the tip of Texas, all the way to the Canadian border, continuous. And so I took about 2 weeks, nearly 2 weeks, and Highway 83 crosses pretty close to where I live in the Panhandle. And so I jumped on Highway 83 and went north, and I painted my way north. I had a little camper that I took, and it was just me. I drove and I stopped when I wanted to stop, painted what I wanted to paint, but it was a great trip. But grain elevators, as you can imagine, all the way up through Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, everywhere. And so this was in North Dakota. This was seen in North Dakota, a grain elevator that I painted. I didn't paint it there. I didn't have enough time, but I did this sketch on location. So I worked out my painting in this sketch, and then I've painted it once as a demo since then. I'm going to do a bigger painting, but I thought I would use that. I've just transferred that sketch, redrew it here on the watercolor paper. And so this is what I'll do. I'm thinking
All right,
about
there's a
this.
question in the comments, Tim, about whether or not the graphite, when it gets wet, impacts the colors.
Not really. It'll melt somewhat. It melts a little bit, but not much. It mainly just gets covered up, erased, whatever. But
Right.
No, it doesn't. If it was really soft lead and really thickly applied, possibly, charcoal will melt. If you use charcoal, it'll melt into the watercolor and kind of change the value of the pigment. So, but you just go with the flow on that too. So, so what I'm going to do, if you remember the top to bottom, I'm going to paint top to bottom.
Why don't you put your little cheat sheet back on screen for a second, because there are people who just joined. Our guest today is Tim Oliver. He's going to teach you a watercolor system to make it simple, intuitive, and repeatable. So would you explain this again one more time?
Yeah, I sure will. Generally speaking, and what I'm going to demonstrate today is painting from the top to the bottom. In other words, the top of the image down to the bottom. And I'm going to go from lighter pigment to darker pigment on the successive layers. I'm going to let the layers dry in between. And then I'm going, as I progress through the layering, I'm going to go from thin to thicker paper. Top to bottom, light to dark, thin to thick. If you're a watercolorist, you just need to have that drilled into your brain.
Well, that's hard for me as an oil guy, because I typically start out with my darks.
Yeah.
It's the opposite.
It's total opposite. And I know a lot of times oil painters will start at kind of the center of interest and work their way out. Everybody's got their own way, but this is a kind of a baseline, and I change things up now a little bit from time to time, depending on what I need to accomplish. But as a general rule, this can be a light bulb moment for you if you'll do that. And when I teach in workshops, I teach this, and then students will immediately go back to doing their other way of doing things. They'll be painting here and there, and it if they'll just do this, it'll help, and then they can modify it. It's like everything that we learn to do. If when we get good at it, we can modify it. So, so this is the painting. I've already done through the work of establishing this composition and the values. I've darkened some things, because when you get started painting, you can get lost if you're not careful with watercolor, especially, because you got to get that first wash right. It's real important. So what I've identified with this is I identified for everybody where I'm going to preserve the white paper. So,
what a great idea.
Yeah, my light source is coming this way. I'm going to preserve some white. I'm going to paint around. You'll see when I demonstrate this what I mean by this, but I'm going to remind myself that I'm going to preserve some white in these locations, because they'll be really important as I finish the painting, that white is going to be really important.
So
can't
Tim,
ever get it.
some people use a resist where they
Yeah.
just put a little color on the resist and put it down and peel it off. Why don't you do that?
I tried that, and for me, it was just a hassle. You know, it was just, I didn't like putting it down. I didn't like peeling it up. I didn't like the hard edges. Sometimes it leaves some really hard, well, it always leaves really hard edges. And then you got to figure out how to lose some of those edges and fuzz some things out. So I just decided I'm a painter. I'm going to learn to paint around things, you know, and so that's what I do. So anyway, planning is so important. People want to paint without any planning that goes in before, but man, to have a successful painting, I've done some bomb paintings, and the ones that bombed are the ones I didn't spend any time in the preliminary stages doing that. So anyway, that is that, and back to this. That's the scene, and I could talk too much, but you can see I've modified this painting from this scene. This is somewhat of an interesting shape. The shapes are great. Architecturally, it's a little blah, you know. So I'm making a painting out of a scene that needs some help. So you can, and that's what we do as painters. So let's get started. I don't know if you can see my palette. I know when I'm watching somebody demo, I love to see their palette.
No, maybe if you turn it counterclockwise a little bit. Oh, well, I could see your mixing area, but I can't see your colors.
I can move it over a little.
Yeah, that if you move, actually, your camera could go over to the right just a little bit because we're seeing a lot of edge of your paint. No, the other right. There we go, right there. Stop. Okay, good.
Is that all right?
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, I think so. I'm just gonna. This is our first pass. This is our first wash, and it's going to establish the mood or the tone of the whole painting. So it's really important. So I'm going to assume
you have not wet your paper. Is that correct?
That's right. I don't generally pre-wet my paper. Because I don't know why. I just never really gotten into that habit. So I'm just using a little ultramarine blue, and I'm throwing a little bit of cerulean blue in there. And I'm going to just assume this is a clear blue sky kind of a day. And so this is a pretty wet wash. And I'm using a mop that'll carry a lot of water.
And your canvas or your paper is at a 45-degree angle?
Yeah, about a 30-degree angle.
Yeah.
I'm going to use a lot of water. You can see that bead forming right there, all along there.
Yep.
That's really important.
Why?
So that's about all the pigment. I might add a little more cerulean into that because that's a truer blue sky. But this is a real wet kind of a wash, and it really sort of starts to paint itself. Now, if you remember, I was going to paint around that white there and the white there, white there, white there, white there, and white there. So I'm just going to paint around that. Otherwise, I'm not too concerned about any of this. My whole goal is to get this wash flowing down the page. And waiting on it a little bit. So I can add a little color in there. I can invigorate that bead if it starts to dry up a little bit. Now I'm diluting my paint now because I'm wanting to. If you'll notice, I'm not worried about painting over this building because I know the successive wash is going to be darker.
But so you're using your blue for your shadows.
Yeah, kind of. I'm just really not worrying about painting through any of this because because the next layer is going to be a little bit darker than that, so it's going to cover that layer up.
Okay.
So I can go back in there as long as it's a little bit wet. I can do anything to that while it's wet without having blooms. I could have clouds in there. I just want to keep it simple. So basically now I'm just painting with water, and I'm going to paint through everything and let it kind of keep flowing down.
But you're not going to paint through your whites.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna make sure that and this whole area here is going to be unpainted, and that just helps me. Helps me kind of visualize what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and as I get closer to the horizon line, I'm going to add a little warmth to that, a little ground effect. See how that changes just a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring that right to the horizon. And if I want to, at that point, I can, I'm going to stop my wash right there, because I also want the great watercolorist and great friend and mentor, Ian Stewart, coined this term, along the horizon. He calls it a kiss line. So, I love leaving a little thread of broken white along the horizon. It's just one of those cool factors.
All right.
Plus it helps. What I might do is, while I'm at it, I'm going to add a little bit of alizarin to that blue, maybe a little more, give it a little bit of a purple, and watch this. Just
now you got a mountain.
Yeah, or a thunderstorm building in the far, just a hint of some atmosphere happening back there.
Nice.
Okay.
If you're tuning in, our guest today is Tim Oliver, who's teaching a watercolor system, and it's going to be, he's painting top to bottom, and then light to dark, and then thin to thick. If you guys are enjoying this, make sure to hit the share or the like button. Make sure other people can see it. That's always helpful. And tell us in the comments where you're from. Today, you have a chance to win a pair of value specs that will help you see values. It's a little gimmicky, but it works really well. So, hello, Ireland. Nice to see you here today.
Okay, so I'm just now in this wash. I'm just adding some. You can do just about anything. As that sort of, knowing the moisture level of the paper is really important. Sometimes you have to test it, but it's a little wet still there. I'm just gonna, all of this sort of starts to.
So do you need a drying moment?
Yes. I think at this point I better just
all right.
Let it dry. I would babysit it and tend it a little bit normally, but I might go ahead and dry it if you so.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and dry it? I'll take you off camera for just a second.
Okay.
Right. Our guest today is Tim Oliver. What a great guy. What a fabulous painter. He's a member of the world famous Rattlesnake Gang, which everybody wants to be in, and they're kind of like cutting off entry because it's so exclusive. Anyway, I want to tell you guys that Tim is going to be teaching at the Plein Air Convention. It's coming up in Santa Fe, New Mexico, May 17 through 20. And there's a Kevin McPherson workshop starting on the 16th. And there's also a beginner's day the morning of the 17th, and a huge number of people. check it out. A lot of people are coming, especially a lot of people last minute were like, well, I was waiting to see what's happening with, anyway, things are getting better. New Mexico is letting us loose. And so a lot of people coming. We hope that you'll come too. We still have plenty of seats right now. We have also, and tell you about an event that is coming up in January. It's called Watercolor Live, and it is a full 4 days, 3 days plus a beginner's day. If you want to attend beginner's day, 4 days of watercolor from some of the top watercolorists in the world. And everybody's got a different technique. It's interesting. Some are wet on wet, some are dry, some are different papers, some are different subjects. So it's a lot of fun. Last but not least, I want to tell you guys that I am gathering. This will be the 11th time I've done this, technically the 12th, because the first one was not named, but I get everybody together to paint in the Adirondacks once a year in mid-June, early-ish June. And it's a chance to just paint together for a week. And it's called Paint Adirondacks. Just go to paintadirondacks.com. We have 100 seats that we sell. And we have not ever, I don't think we've ever raised the price in 11 years. And next year, we're going to raise the price. We have to, because expenses are going up. As you know, everything is going up. And so this will be a good year to come, and make sure that you get in there, because 75-ish of the seats are already gone. Now, let's see if Tim is back to dry. Tim, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Are you dry yet?
Yeah, I'm dry.
All right.
And one of the things I was going to do a little bit was just add some far distant trees out there along the horizon. That just gives you an idea that the horizon is out there. And I'm doing this very kind of fast and loose. So I apologize about that. But
no, it looks great.
See how that gives you a little sense of
distance.
Of distance. I can blot those back a little bit if I want to, and that just increases that distance in the painting. So, can you still see my palette?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I've got ultramarine blue here, and I've got transparent red oxide here, which is basically burnt sienna. It's Daniel Smith's version of Winsor Newton burnt sienna, transparent red oxide. So we all know as painters that when you add ultramarine blue to burnt sienna, you get a beautiful range of neutrals, right? So yeah. So I can, or grays. So I can I'm gonna add a little blue, maybe pick up a little bit of that, and I end up with some really cool. Look at that gray there.
All right, that's a good trick. Keeping a little piece of paper there to test your color before you put it on your painting.
Yeah. A lot of people will kind of test it, on there, and I've just never gotten in that habit. So that's wash number one. And there's a lot of more things you could have done in that wash. I'm trying to keep it fast, but notice how I just added. It's basically a base coat. It's the sky and then a underpainting of other colors. So I've just indicated some. They'll show up later and they'll be really cool. But I left this white. I left these white. Forgot to leave that white, but it's light enough. It'll be okay. So that's wash number one. It's dry. It's got to be dry before you start wash number two, or you get all kinds of problems. Wash number two is I'm going to just bring this building down and bring it on. Just bring it all down. So I'm going to go with the old building's an old tin structure. So I'm going to just start a variegated wash coming down. And I've got three colors I'm using. I've got burnt sienna, and I've got ultramarine, and I've got the gray version of all of that. So I can, and 1,000 different versions of that, either brown or gray or blue or gray, warmer or cooler. So we'll just start with that. And I'm going to use a little stronger pigment. It's going to be a little darker because it's light to dark. So that was my lightest pass. So this is going to be a little darker. So I'm going to keep that preserve that. And I'm going to kind of do this fast and not take as much care with it, but I know that I'm going to leave some white in there, little sparkles. You can see my paper's buckled, but I'm not going to worry about that. So I can mix those three. I can mix them here, or I can mix them here. So I can throw a little bit of that burnt sienna in there. I can throw a little bit of that ultramarine in there. Well, ultramarine in there, and it'll mix on the page. So I'm just going to start bringing this down. I'm going to paint around these windows for now.
So somebody's asking, is your paper taped to gator board? What's it taped?
Yes, sir. Gator
Yes,
board.
okay.
Right.
All right.
And it'll buckle. It buckles, but I just kind of taught myself a long time ago, I'm not going to worry about the buckles. I'm just not going to worry about it. Just that helps move the paint in different ways. And so,
okay. Hello, Sweden. Hello, Albany, New York. Hello, New York City. Hello, Northwest Illinois. I got grief for not mentioning the U.S. So hello, Nashville, Santa Fe. Now everybody's going to be hopping in and putting their Toronto. Welcome. Columbia. I've never seen Columbia on here before. Australis. Welcome. Newport Beach, Cherokee Village, Arkansas, Liverpool, Pennsylvania, Texas. All right. Texas. Southwest Indiana.
Somebody showed up, Eric.
Yeah. About time somebody did. Albuquerque, Twin Cities, Brookville, Brooklyn, India. Welcome. Southeastern Pennsylvania, Stillwater. All right, I'm going to shut up so Tim can keep talking.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine. If you'll notice, I'm just variegating this wash as I go down. I'm adding things to it. I just want to kind of communicate this idea of 10, and I can blot it back a little bit if I want to. Every painting, as we all know, every painting has a severe ugly stage. And so don't be too judgmental at this point. Another thing that I want to do is while this is wet, I mean, you've got to be thinking all the time, but I might want to break that edge up a little bit right there.
Yeah.
I don't want this to be too perfect. I can lose an edge here or there. And so I just want to kind of continue this wash on down.
All right.
There's a spot right here.
What did you use to break that edge? Did you it looks like you used a fan brush.
No, it's just my pointed round.
Okay.
But I just kind of splayed it out, like that.
All
just
right.
kind of.
I see. What kind of brush is that?
It's made by a Skoda.
Okay.
I love the Skoda's synthetic. It's a Perla.
Okay.
A Skoda Perla. It's a synthetic pointed. It just makes a good point. As you can see, I'm painting very with a point.
All right.
Of that brush. So this thing that I left white, I can go ahead. There's a shadow that cuts across here and across here. I can go ahead and work that shadow in because I know that's where it's going to be. Yep. I can do it down here also, kind of painting around that window. And I know that end of the building is totally in the shade. So I'm going to go ahead and
welcome, Gdansk, Poland, and Barcelona. I haven't been to Poland, but I've been to Barcelona. Love it. Nova Scotia, thank you. England, hello, Peter. There's Peter in England. Good friend. Singapore.
I lived in Nova Scotia when I was in high school, Eric.
Did you? All right.
Okay, so if you see, I'm just continuing to bring that wash on down.
That really looks three-dimensional now.
Yeah, and that's just the second wash. It's going to dry a little bit lighter. When I get to the bottom here, if I have any leftover paint, a lot of times I'll just use a damp brush just to kind of move that along.
All right. Hello, Sweden.
So you got to remember that each passage is going to be darker. So it's getting to the point now where I'm going to start being able to define things a little bit better. So and then identify the darks. A lot of times I'll go ahead and paint those darks so I don't forget about them. There's a window opening there that's dark, but they'll be darker.
All right. We have a question. Julia asks, do you use special glass, protective glass, when you sell a painting framed?
Yeah, there's a lot of different kinds of glass. There's always use a UV rated glass, UV protective glass, just to protect the image. And then there's high dollar museum glass, which gets very expensive. But I always use a good grade of UV glass. I'm getting to where I'm painting less on paper that needs to be matted and framed, and I'm painting on mounted panels.
A lot of people are doing that. As a matter of fact, I met with one of the manufacturers last week, and he told me that mounted panels, watercolor panels, are one of the top sellers now.
Yeah, I believe it. This is one I make myself, just on gator board, glued to gator board. And then I've got a little painting I got started here on a Raymar panel. So Raymar is making them mounted to aluminum, which is really, really helpful. So how are we doing on time, Eric?
We're doing just fine, Tim.
Okay.
Lisa says, why is it that when plein air painting and in the ugly stage, onlookers show up?
Yeah, it's definitely in the ugly stage. But what I'm going to do now is, so that was wash number one, the sky and the horizon. Wash number two was coming down with starting to define the structure. Wash number three is my darks. I'm going to start just working from the top down, putting in my darks. Why
don't you take a minute to dry that and let that get completely dry, and I'll just play something for everybody real quick. Sound like a plan?
Great.
All right. I should mention that one of the greats is going to be with us at the plein air convention. Well, there's several greats, but the great David LaFell, one of the great living masters of our time, who is now, I don't know, close to his 90s, maybe in his 90s. He and his wife, Sherry McGraw, have both agreed to be interviewed on stage. That's going to be a rare moment. You know, Laurie and I were watching a documentary the other night, and we watched this documentary on Frank Sinatra. And we both remember a time when we had actually gone to see Sinatra live right before he died. I mean, we were so lucky to see that. You want to grab opportunities. We have Kevin McPherson, and we have a huge number of top tier faculty people. And, you know, these days with COVID, you never know. So get to Pace if you can. It would be a great opportunity. I know that sounded a little morbid, didn't it, Tim?
Yeah, a little bit, but it's all right. It's all right.
All right. Our guest is Tim Oliver, and he's teaching 3 stages. He's just completed the light to dark stage. Now he's going to do the thin to thick stage now that it is dried.
Yeah, exactly. So I've got that sky wash. I've got that wash. I'm going a little bit darker now for my shadows. I'm going to go ahead and put these shadows in, and it'll start to make more sense. So I'm just using a kind of a dirty version of that neutral. Add a little bit of alizarin to make it kind of purpley, shadowy color, but adding some more of that to make it kind of dirty, kind of a dirty purple, a little bit strong. Like that. I don't know if that's going to be strong enough.
Yeah.
Ultramarine, alizarin, and a little bit of that dirty color. So that's, you can see it's not as wet, it's not as watery, it's stronger. So here we go. I know that there's a shadow being cast right here. I know that this whole side, pardon me if my hand gets in the way, but I know this whole side is shadowed. I ran that a little bit long there. Sorry about that. This whole end of the structure is in shade. This will dry a little bit lighter, of course, watercolor always does. And then there's a shadow cast by this roof line here. Isn't that cool how that sort of starts to...
Wow, it really gives it dimension.
Now, I'm going to try something here, and just to show you a little bit of a technique. While I'm loading this pretty heavy with paint here on this edge, and then I'm going to take my little spritzer and just spritz it a little bit. Just fuzz that edge out a little bit.
Whoa, there it goes.
That might have been a little.
I feel like I'm losing control.
Yeah, that might have fuzzed a little too much, but so I don't mind that. I don't mind that doing that. So I got a little bit out of control there. Now I also know that this shadow continues across this building, and it continues under this eave, and it's hard for you to tell, but boy, my hand's shaky this morning. I'm sorry about that. It's
too much coffee.
Well, I think it's pressure being on Eric's program and all that.
Oh, come on. You're doing so well. I mean, you're holding a large audience. You don't need to worry about a thing.
All right.
And everybody's going to hit the heart button right now just to let you know there's no reason to be nervous. Everybody loves you.
That's good, because I have a very sensitive ego. And so, okay. You see how that starts to kind of starts to kind of define things?
Yeah.
And that, I got one more little shadow line underneath here. And one concept that we all should know about is connecting darks. And so I like to see, this will all be dark, even darker here. When I put my darks, this is not my darkest paint. I'll have one pass here in a minute where I'll put in all the darks. And I'm nearly there. See if I forgot anything. I'm going to just kind of blot this back a little bit, just to help us dry, so we don't have to stop again and dry.
All right.
'Cause
Yeah, we're gonna wrap up in about 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Let me
Yes, sir.
just demonstrate real quickly in 3 minutes what my darkest dark will look like. So I'm going really strong on this blue. I'm really strong on this transparent red oxide, which I end up with a really thick, dark mixture. A little bit of water. See how dark that is now? That's that shadow color. That's my dark. Okay, and I'll just demonstrate. I'll just demonstrate down here where my darks my darkest darks will be. There's a lot of things I'm not doing with this painting in order to get through and demonstrate this, but I know we're running short on time. These are the darks that are back in the
Nice.
so there's a whole bunch of calligraphy that will happen.
Well, and you'll post the final painting. That way we can all see it.
I will.
Yeah.
Look how these windows make this up here pop. And they've even got some windows that are in here. And when it's all said and done, these telephone poles will get in there like this.
A pretty steady hand.
And all of those highline wires, I've got to be careful because I'm becoming known as the highline wire guy. But
Love it.
these are those are the last things. I kind of threw those in there.
They
just
matter.
so people can see. But
Why don't you come back on screen real quickly so we can say goodbye?
I'm going to show you this real quick.
Oh, okay.
That was one I did in Dallas to demo. But that's a real quick demo. When it's all comes together, what it kind of could look like.
Outstanding.
Okay. All right.
Okay, our guest today is Tim Oliver. Tim is going to come back on screen right now. Going to get a little bit of movement happening here for a second. And well, there he is. Hey. Well, for a guy with a fragile ego, you sure did a good job.
Thanks, Eric. I do feel like, I don't know if you caught my analogy of the third monkey trying to get on Noah's Ark in the rain, but that's what I feel like when I'm doing a demo. It's pretty frantic.
Oh, very funny. Well, Tim, you're going to be teaching at the plein air convention.
Yeah, I'm actually going to do this on, I think on a full, at least a half sheet, maybe full sheet of watercolor. I'm going to do this same painting. So this is a little teaser for Santa Fe in May.
All right, terrific. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you. And you driving out?
Yes, sir. I'm about 4 hours from Santa Fe, and my son lives over there, so it's good.
Oh, yeah, that's not bad at all. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it looks like this year my wife and my kids are going to come with me, first time ever. So it'll be fun for them and fun for me.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
I won't be able to pay any attention to them because, it gets a little busy.
You're like that third monkey too, aren't you?
Yeah, like fifth or sixth probably in reality. Well, Tim, thank you so much. We've put your website in the comments, and everybody give a share and a thumbs up so everybody can see how this is done. Tim, it was fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Eric. You're a good guy, no matter what everybody says about you.
All right. Take care. Oh, that may be truer than I'd like to believe. Okay. Well, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. And I hope you had a terrific Easter. We certainly did here. And this, of course, will get into replays. And so if you're watching this, we'll be talking about Easter, sometime in the future. Thanks to Tim Oliver for doing this. Check out Tim's website. It's in the comments. And what a really terrific guy he is. Really just down home and easy to learn from. I like that. You're going to be able to learn from him at the plein air convention. And we have a watercolor track, we have a pastel track, we have what we call a demo stage, and of course a main stage. And we're going to announce something. I guess I could tell you, but I don't think it's ready for you yet. We decided there are a lot of people who are just a little still nervous about the whole COVID thing. So we are going to broadcast the main stage only online for people who want to attend online. And we'll have that all set up today or tomorrow. And so you want to be looking forward to that. Now, don't cancel if you're planning on coming, because it's going to be even better in person, because we get to go out and paint, and you got the expo hall and you got all the other stages and things. But anyway, that's going to be very cool. We still have people coming in from all over the world. I saw some make comments today. So we will see you tomorrow. And thanks again for tuning in. I'm Eric Rhoads, publisher of Fine Art Connoisseur, Plein Air Magazine, Streamline Art, and Paint Tube, and so many other things. We will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.